hash generation is using pointers, our systems aren't working the way I expect them to. Okay. What I am going to do... Oh, I've already ended the program. What I am going to do is I can close this window. I'm going to revert some of these changes. Well, actually, first I'm going to save these changes in a patch. Because I don't want to actually lose the progress, just in case. That's nice. Thank you very much. Now revert. And what we're going to try instead of changing the data structure, we're just going to try being a little smarter about how we call some of these functions. For example, this find edge by vertices, we can Isn't that the regular hash implementation? Yes and no. Okay. So the point and the problem that I ran into, let's see here. Hash table find. Oop. Really? Oh, in the current document. No, in the entire solution. Thank you very much. Find all. Specifically, let's see. If you're using the pointers to generate the hashes, why do you need the hashes? The pointers are already unique. So, the problem is, let's see here, why do I need the... So, music, you're being unconstructive at the moment. Really? That's the lowest volume I can get? It's either that or off. Okay. I'm just going to mute it for a second while I explain this. So, what the system is attempting to do, and I'm just going to kind of close things and re-bring up MS Paint so I can kind of go through this. What the system is trying to do, or what I'm trying to do specifically, is I'm trying to take the cell edge class and I'm trying to make it a hash element so that using the two vertices, you are then able to quickly and easily go into a hash table and say, this vertex and this vertex match, so I'm taking this edge out. Or this vertex and this vertex match, so I'm taking this out. Because right now we're iterating through every single edge to try and find the edge we're hunting for. Because we're given two vertices, and we're trying not to duplicate edges. And the way we're doing that is we're digging through the entire array of edges and saying, do you match? No. Do you match? No. Do you match? No. And so what we need to do is find a smarter method here that is able to find edges based on a hash, or that's what I was trying to do, right? I was creating a hash table and I was hashing out the actual elements inside the vertices. I said, your X, we're going to run a CRC on that, and then we're going to run a CRC on the Y. Then we're going to go back and say we're going to run a CRC on your on the other vertices X and on the other vertices Y. And this hash is unique to this edge, right? So now we've got a hash and we've got our associated edge. My next attempt was to say, okay, when you find an element, recreate that hash and check if it exists in the hash table already. The problem is, it would find the matching hash and then it would attempt to compare the keys. This is where our problem is. The key, in our case, was a double pointer to pointers of the vertices. I know it's a little crazy. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in here when I talk about it like that. So the problem is not that we weren't finding the hash. The problem is that we were finding the hash, and then it said, oh, do these pointers match? No. Those pointers didn't match. Those pointers would actually never match, because we were generating the pointers somewhere else, and the only way to make the pointers match would be to dig back into the cell edge, and once again, we'd for loop through every single one, and that would break our system again. That's our problem. Imagine, you know I could be a teacher. I've actually lectured a class at UC Santa Cruz before on Intro to Game Design using C# and XNA, and I got some really good feedback from the students, and they absolutely enjoyed my teaching style. And I am only sad that it requires a master's degree to teach, because as nice as it would be to take the time off work and like go back and get a master's, unfortunately in computer science, specifically in the computer science industry, having a master's only does so much. And I find that what it does gain you is a giant waste of time for me. Isn't this a misuse of hash tables? I'm trying to exploit... maybe hash tables aren't what I should be using, but I was trying to exploit the idea of a hash so that I could quickly and easily find cell edges. Is it a misuse? Kind of. Kinda, sorta, yeah. I guess if I wanted to not misuse the hash table idea, what I could do is generate a hash for each, but I don't know if that would be faster. So we would, when we generate an edge, we would generate a hash alongside of it of those points, and then we would say anytime we are attempting to check whether or not one of these exists. Ooh. So the only reason I don't like the idea of a sorted list is that sorted lists are, you have the back and forth between, a sorted list would help us find what we're looking for faster, but it would also increase the amount of time it takes to insert things into the list. I don't know if that would honestly be faster. I really don't. Just buy a master's. Unfortunately, I don't think that would fly in the university system in California. I like the idea of Beetlecore, and I would love to teach. I gotta say, I'm actually looking at a community college out here called Mission Community College, who's looking for game design professors. The problem is, until I get a new job and until my situation stabilizes, I can't exactly like jump up and be like, yeah, I can teach, because my schedule needs to be stable enough that when I do get a new job, the schedule of teaching does not collide with the schedule for the job. Yeah, Chakma's got it right. The idea is interesting, but it has some flaws. And what I need to do is I need to come up with a better way to store these, or I need to come up with a better way to not just store them, but sort through them. So I have to change the sort style, or I have to change how I look through them, because obviously looking through every single one is going to be painful. Also, the reason I reverted and was going to look at this again is that some of these edges are never, ever going to find a matching edge. They just aren't, right? Until we hit those edge cases. Remember what I was talking about before. every single one of these is not going to find a bottom or right-hand edge. They just won't. So if I can cut that out, that should cut this time in half. Because we shouldn't be digging through things. Do you really need a hash or just bit shifting the x and add the y? Yeah, we've talked about this before. So if these are integers, that would be a lot easier, right? If all my vertices were integer based, that would be stupidly simple, and I could do that in a heartbeat. They're floats. Floats don't like to be bit shifted. Isn't there a problem? Because I'm iterating through pointers. So I'm not actually looking at the contents of the pointer, though. So, Kuisk, if I was looking through every single pointer and checking the x and y values of the pointers and making sure they match, then yes, I definitely would be causing CPU cache misses, and all kinds of bad performance would kick in there because I would be thrashing the cache all over the place. Because I'm looking at the actual pointer addresses, because I'm generating all this data at once, I can assume that my pointer addresses are going to be valid. And because I'm looking at pointer addresses, instead of dereferencing them and looking at the data inside, I'm not actually causing the expensive calls that would cause cache misses. I'm just looking at the addresses. I'm not actually digging into them. There's still a little bit of stuff in here, but it's not as bad. This contains vertices function. You'll notice it only checks pointers. That's it. Don't care about anything else. So I'm not actually causing CPU thrashing, as far as I know. The Wolf, the engine is the C4 engine, and the details are actually in the stream description below. There's a link to the engine. It's a proprietary C++ engine. It's a nice one. It doesn't help in cases like this when the programmer is doing something in an unoptimized way. Okay. Let's think about this. So we're going 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So 0 should be fine. 1 and 2 should be garbage. 3 should be fine. So just for shits, since I know 0 and 3, let's just try something here. 0 and 3 should be fine. Now this is going to cause some trouble later on. The moment we have cells that start talking to each other across multiple setups, this will generate issues, I believe. Or it will just cause things to break. What? Wait. Let's look at this again. Where did I cause that change? Here it is. It starts at 0. Goes to 3, goes above 4, and stops. Oh, but edges I. Oh, I see. I see what I need to do here. Okay. If I is 0 or I is 3, we know we're never going to find a good one. So what we're going to do is we're just going to... We know E is a null pointer, right? This is a little sketchy. So if... Here's a cool trick. I'm going to show you guys something right now. Oh, and let's get the music back on since it's not actually too terribly... I'm not going into anything too deep anymore. There we go. Especially since I have the bot still in my channel, I may as well still have the music going. Something cute. When you have an if statement, right? You have details inside an if statement, and you want to find the opposite of that if statement. So if we say if not B or if not A, we can find the opposite of that statement by inverting all the statements on the inside. So we say if I is not equal to 0 or I is not equal to 3, and then you also invert the conditional statements. So or becomes an and. And this is the same exact thing as what I had written before, right? I said if I equals 0 or I equals 3. Now, my inverse of this is if I isn't equal to 0 and it's not equal to 3. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. It's a neat little trick you can do. So this alone, right, should speed us up. Was that faster? I don't actually know. 1,000, 2, 1,000. It doesn't feel a lot faster. And in fact, you can see there's some... you can see it actually breaks a fair number of skirts when I do that. Let's... Really? If I is not equal to 0. Well, I equals 0. So my vertices that I'm looking at are going to be minus 10. And that's an x difference. That's the top. And that's fine. Okay. And then we dig through for all of these. Because when x equals 1, we're at... Yeah, so that's that y edge. Oh, whoops. Did I do this backwards? I think I did. Yeah. Right? Because on I equals 0, we need to check whether or not that's a valid. Yes. Okay. My bad, guys. I did it completely backwards and was doing the worst case. So that did seem to run a bit faster, but at the same time...
Thank you for listening to this week's podcast.
It looks like that's also breaking some of my skirts. So obviously this is not a good solution. That would not work either. Oh, because we're never assigning the edges, even in those cases. Could I look at the actual generated assembly for this? Yeah. Let's see here. The generated assembly... Well, so the generated assembly isn't going to tell us anything we don't really know, Thurana. So as much as it might help, I mean, we can check it just to make sure. Specifically, let's dump a breakpoint. Not here. Let's actually look at the inside of this function. So we go into debug, Windows, disassembly. Oh, my example of De Morgan's law. Yes, I actually could. Sorry, I mistook your comment. Yes, I could look at the De Morgan's law of... So that's what it's called. When you switch the cases like that, it's called De Morgan's law. And yes, I should be able to look at the disassembly and see that it hasn't changed. Oh, my brain. Why? This is not working as well as I'd hoped it would. And here I thought this would be a nice, easy, like, yeah, I'll do this in like a half hour to an hour, and then I'll have stream number 2 later today. And here I am still fighting with it 2 hours later. How do we clean this up? How do we make this nicer? I really liked the idea of having a hash map housing my edges and then doing that. We could do an impromptu hash map of some kind. That might save us some pain. And then put everything into the right structure at the very end. Okay, let's think for a moment here. Let's think of the kind of collisions we would come up with and then see if we can fight with this the right way. So, say we do a cheap hash map. Something that's... So, I would generate an array, and inside that array we'll have a bunch of lists, and the array is going to be based off of something simple. Something incredibly simple, like we can do sorry, got distracted reading Chakma's statement. If you do something like this, where you say if the pointer is not equal to null pointer or the pointer x is 1, can the compiler make something dangerous out of this? No, it won't. So Chakma, the reason it's not going to do this, and I'm going to copy this into my own code for a moment just so I can kind of make a point of this real quick. So when you have something like this, and you say if the pointer is not equal to a null pointer or x equals 1, what it'll do first, it'll say, okay, if it's not equal to null pointer, if this is, let's see here, actually this might be dangerous as is. Let's see. So if it's not equal to a null pointer, if it's not equal to a null pointer, so if that's true, or this would be, I think, let's see. So if this is equal to a null pointer, it would fail the first one. Sorry, distracted by chat again. Okay, so if the pointer is a null pointer, it will fail the first one and go to the next one and then attempt to dereference it and crash. So this is not a good statement, because for anything, it should be this, I think, is what you're trying to talk about, Chakma. Essentially, the idea is that the double OR here is a different kind of conditional than your standard OR. So what happens in this case, if you have this double OR, it will early exit on the first one that causes the statement to be true. For example, in this case, if the pointer is null pointer, it's going to return true without checking whether or not this is also true, right? There's no need. It's an OR statement. So that won't break anything, even if this is the case. It should be pointer is not equal to null and... No, because if the pointer is not equal to null, this is a dangerous statement. Because the moment it says, okay, this is an OR statement, keep that in mind. So we say, if this is not equal to null pointer, so if it is equal to null pointer, this is going to come back false, and it's going to continue checking the rest of the statement and crash when this happens. What Chakma means is that the compiler may switch up instructions. It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. Especially in something like this, it shouldn't switch the instructions. Yeah, it really shouldn't. No compiler is going to go through and do that. Mostly because this short-circuiting statement assumes that there is a planned order of operations here that you are doing things in. So because there's a short-circuiting OR in here, it shouldn't do anything. Oh, okay, yeah, you put the and in. Yeah, there's multiple ways to do this. Once again, De Morgan's Law kicks in. We can swap this around any way we like. It's either this, or we can do this, I guess. And that will also come out to the same state. But yeah, because it short circuits, the compiler cannot optimize that statement. There's nothing in here that the compiler can change, because it assumes through the short circuiting that there's an order of operations here. Any good compiler should do that. Yeah, as Kevin says, short circuiting, it's a lovely thing. It saves us a lot of time, and it also saves us a lot of crashes. Okay, back to the problem at hand. How do we do this? So, how can we figure out whether or not an edge is already in the system or not? That's the question, right? What is the fastest way we can say, does this edge already exist in this data structure? And we can do some crazy stuff and then put the data structure back together into a assumed format eventually. That would be fine as well. As long as the data structure can end up in a standard array, we should be fine. In fact, it probably could... So the other thought I'm having is that, so we're trying to think of a few things here. One is going to be, can we call this function less? As I've already kind of proven, not really. I can try some more science and make sure that that's the case, but I don't want to remove the four-sided check, because if we generate all of our terrain at once, that's a lot of data floating around that we might not use immediately, and I want to be able to generate terrain late. So I don't want to change the four-sided check. So other thoughts that I'm having. Let's see, let's look at that constructor, or let's look at the place where we use this function specifically, to see if we can find a way to use this less. Other thoughts currently include the fact that we're checking when a cell is created. We could create some kind of edge loop. No, we couldn't, could we? Because I'm creating them as they become available. And my thought was that maybe, just maybe, if I could generate them not as they become available, but generate the vertices, and then generate all the, not just the vertices, but then also generate all of the, oh, come on, brain. Generate all the edges at once, that maybe that would be quicker. Because I hate to have to continue to, like, fight and sit with this. Let's do one thing quickly and easily, right? Let's see here. E is a new yada yada yada, right? This seems kind of stupid. So let's fix that. Now, this isn't going to make a huge difference. In fact, it's going to make a very, very small difference. But, we take what we can get, right? I really wish I could just easily hash these and just slap them together and be done. Could we space out the cell creation? We could. We definitely could. That would be a possibility. We would say, here's the ones you're playing on right now. And then say, each frame we're going to generate another cell group and kind of add to it as we go. That's definitely one thing. That would mean creating a couple deferred tasks in the event system. Not the end of the world. Let's see. I try to avoid multi-threading as a solution when I can, if only because multi-threading tends to create some very interesting different problems, depending on how atomic some of my code is. So we're finding the edge based on the vertices. Vertices I. That's an interesting thought. Maybe my partner was onto something. So before a giant rewrite of this magnitude happened, cell edges did not hold pointers to the vertices. They actually held indices. In most cases, that slowed us down because that would mean you are grabbing the index from the cell edge, and then you need to say, okay, from the cell index, I need to then look up in the vertex array, and you needed to hold a giant array of vertices somewhere. And that would cause us to kind of do this like indirect jump. And I like having them as pointers. It honestly makes my life a lot easier. But vertices. I'm kind of looking at the structure here, seeing if there's a good way I can get away with something in here. Do something smarter. For example, if we could check whether certain vertex indices existed, that'd be a quick and easy way, right? We say, does this vertex, like we've just created this vertex, does it even exist in the current system? Ooh, there we go. There's some good thinking. Okay, we already are taking the time to check if a vertex is new, right? When we say one is new, we create the new vertex and insert it into the list. Now, each time we create a new vertex, it cannot have existing matching... Is this true? Yeah, it can't have an existing matching edge on any side at all. So what we're going to do... Ooh, this might be smart. This might work. This might really work. I hope it really works. We're going to create... This is the answer I might have been looking for this whole time. We'll see if that ends up being the case, but we'll see. New vertices. And I'm not even going to bother... Actually, I'm going to... So I think Therena's going down a really good point as well, in that if I could iterate through subsets of the edge array, I would be great. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to see if I can leverage the fact that I know some of these edges cannot exist and skip looking through the array altogether. Because if I can skip looking through the array, we should be fine. That should take out a lot of these big function calls. It'll remove the worst cases, right? It'll remove the case where we look through every single element in the array and go, nope, doesn't exist, right? So we can do that, and we can also assume the other thing that I might think of doing is we might iterate through it backwards, because the most obvious place to find, we're kind of abusing the locality issue, right? When you generate 4 points and you generate edges on all those 4 points, and then you go to the next cell, your next cell is at worst going to have 2 edges that are probably not connected. It's going to have 1 edge that is definitely connected to the previous cell, and 1 edge which may or may not be connected to another cell. So we're going to turn off the 2 worst cases, and if we go through the list backwards, remember, the last edge that we created, or one of the 4 last edges that we created, is definitely on the list, or is probably on the list, right? We can go from 2 corners, right? We can go left to right and then jump down here. Not the end of the world. But we are always going to have 2 edges that won't exist, or we, in most cases, will have edges that don't exist. So, what we're going to do is every time we add a new vertice to the list, we are also going to add it to this array. Oh crap. C4 point 2D pointer new vertex, new vert, cell vertices I. The vert index is that, and then the new is the new vert, and we are going to also insert new vert into the list of new vertices, into this array. Now what we're going to do is we are going to, let's see here, how can we hustle this? So, Threnna, in most cases, I wouldn't want to actually malloc in a tight loop like this, but because the engine has a memory manager, which reduces the overhead of new and delete, I'm not so worried about it. The actual, the malloc and delete stuff is not a problem. I've done some profiling of this sucker, and it is fast in terms of the memory management sections. So, I'm not going to put pointers in. I'm actually going to go cell vertices I. There we go. So we're going to say v1 vertices, come on, vertices I, v2 vertices I plus 4 mod 4 I plus 1 mod 4. Oh my gosh, that would have ended terribly. These are pointers, right? Yeah, vertices. And then we can just say, for this, we can simplify down to v1 and v2. But the magic, the big magic stuff, it's okay. I'm actually really happy that you're here, Threnna, to actually point these things out, because if anyone else has these questions and isn't asking them, it's good that I'm making these points, and the engine is being very helpful in some of these cases. Now, granted, it's not terribly helpful, because I could have had this solved a long time ago, probably. If I had access to STL set, I might have had this problem put away, an hour and a half ago, but it's still nice to have folks around who are in the know, who are able to point out things that, if I were not using this engine, would definitely cause some thought. At bare minimum, it would cause me to rethink how I'm doing some of this stuff. Oof. I really wish they would get rid of the dark blue on the dark chat background. Hellgrind, yes, this is C++. Definitely. And someone beat me to it in chat, so lag will cause you to get my answer late. If new vertices, find elements v1, or new vertices, find element v2. Actually, not even that, just continue. Just skip. No, don't skip. That's bad. Let's see here. So this needs to get set up out here. So if the vertex is not, so if this is false, I kind of want to just skip it instead of checking both. Well, I guess I need to check both arrays, right? Oh, but if it's in the new vertex list, then I definitely need to do it. If it's not in the new vertex list, wait, my brain's doing this logic backwards, I think. If it is a new vertex, I need to not be doing this. If it is not in either list, dang it. Okay. So if this is false and this is false, then we do that. And I don't know why I keep putting braces on something that may not need braces. So if neither of the vertices are new, so this should speed us up a little bit. It'll at least get rid of that worst case, right? Now granted, it looks like we're back to having broken skirts for some reason. Now that makes no sense. Every time we add a new vertex, we add it to the new vertices. Let's see. So you definitely have new vertices, right? So every time, we aren't even going to check whether that's the case, and that's fine. What? First off, how did a guy get up here on this cliff? Secondly, is it really never calling find edge by vertex? Because that seems bizarre. Let's check this find function. This honestly should be finding something. Also, it looks like I accidentally swapped my game world back to huge when I compiled it back into the old previous state. Yeah, so it definitely never calls the find vertex by edge function, which is what's going to cause us to never set up our edges correctly. So if the new vertices doesn't contain either element, yeah, because if it's a new vertex, it can't. It's also kind of frightening that this is the case, because that would mean that it's not, that it's creating also every single vertex? Let's see here. Vert index -1, -1, -1, 1. Okay. I'm gonna put a breakpoint out here, and then 1. Let's see here. Where do I want 1 to go? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you have... Okay, so you have a pair of vertices. This one should have a pair of vertices that don't... that aren't both new. Specifically, I think it was 1 and 4, I want to say. Granted, I guess that's not going to help me a ton without some knowledge, some foreknowledge here. New vertices contains one new element. And that one element is 1, 1. And you are 0, 1. And you are 1, 1. So this one's not going to work. V1, V2. I just need these open so I can see what the heck is going on in here. You contain 1, 1. That's fine. You don't contain 1, 1. Right? And we already know 1, 1 is the only element in here. For element. If this is false... Oh, is false. Oh my gosh. If it's -1. Not false. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is the C++ implicit system kicking me in the ass. Find element returns an int 32. If this is -1 and the other one is -1, so if neither of them are in, it should then... pain. That's what that is right there. That is the feeling of pain. There it is. Now it's getting used. And here are our skirts. Do I only get... Yes, I only ever create a cell as a batch. So I have a cell group, which defines a square area and says cells must exist within this square for this group. And then I can append a bunch of cells together into the cell system. We might be able to do something smart with that, actually. That's a good thought, Therena. Jumping in and saying, is there a cell above you, or a cell group above you? And then checking upwards. Might be something smart we can figure out with that. So let's try turning this game world back up to huge and see if it's any faster. So everything works. Let's run another Very Sleepy just to make sure that this is working as expected. Where is this? Ah, no. Don't do that. Okay, okay. No ads. Just trying to avoid the ads stuff that keeps wanting to pop up. Okay. Engine, where are you? Oh, I'm not running it. Okay, there's engine, there's that. We're ready to load a world. Refresh. There you are. Okay, we say profile all, we hit go. So I don't know if that was any faster or not. Cell contains vertices is still one of our big problems. You'll notice it actually, these numbers are shorter. But this is only 2 seconds. Interesting. I really wish I could insert, like, markers and say, okay, for these markers, start and stop profiling at those markers. That'd be really nice. I'd be really happy if that was the case. Oh, I'd be really happy if I could do that, but Never actually done that before, placing markers inside my code. Oh well. Okay, so things that took some of the most time. This contains vertices is still one of the longer things. It's not as bad as it was, which is good. But it's still not great. Oof. Okay, so contains vertices is still where a fair hunk of time is being spent. You know what? I do have Pro. I don't know why I'm not using the Visual Studio Profiler. And I think you can put markers in with the Visual Studio Profiler. Hecka, I'm using the Very Sleepy Profiler because that's what I'm used to. Would I mind going up the call hierarchy? Yeah, sure, I can do that. Let's see here. Bring Very Sleepy back up. I did not mean to accidentally close all of that good information that I was sitting on. Let's see, refresh. No, come on, you're running. Let's prep you, call you, C4 engine, ready, sit, profile, go. There we go. I killed it as fast as I could just to make sure that any reason it might happen. So okay, here's our call stack on it. So we don't care about everything up to like here-ish. The game world pre-process. This is where we start to dive in. We tell the world generator to build the terrain, and you can see here's where the create cell group call is. In fact, I'm gonna bring that up a little bit. From there, we actually create the cell group, which is little more than just not just creating the cell group, but also going into the constructor, is generating all the new cells. Once again, expected, nothing out of the ordinary here. Each cell then creates this vertex array of all its possible vertices, checks if those vertices exist. I don't know if there's a way around that. In fact, I don't think there is. Short of like hashing those up and putting them in a set as well. Those would be easier to hash. And then if the vertex doesn't exist, and then each time we generate a new vertex, we put it into the array that tells us, oh, don't look for edges, because there aren't any. Oh, let's put the backwards search in there. See if that helps at all, too. So when we say... Crap, where did that function go? Find... Whoops, it's not in here. Find edges. Why do I have to check if each vertex is valid only once? Can't I create only one valid one? In an effort to not duplicate vertices, I am checking if one already exists and attaching to existing ones. So if I were to generate a whole bunch of vertices without checking, I'd end up with a ton of duplicate data. Now granted, it might... Would it be better? No, it would not be better to check for duplicate data later. Okay, so in here, I equals int last is edge list dot get element count, or actually, why don't we just do this? I is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0. So we're going to look through the list backwards. Oh, this. One last thing. Here we go. Oh, and because Very Sleepy is still running, obviously, we can't write to the PDB file. So that actually is a fair bit nicer. I like this much better already. And there's not a ton going on here. Let's see here. Let's run another Very Sleepy, just to see. I want to see if that really helped, or if this is just my imagination at this point. Also, the other thing to keep in mind here is this is a debug build, right? Debug builds are inherently slow. It's just kind of how it goes. There's a lot of information, and in a debug build, you can't do the optimizations and be able to also... You can't also do the checks for... essentially, you can't look through the code as easily if you've optimized. So when I switch to a release build, some of this is just going to straight up go away. But I don't want to count on that. So we go profile all, enter, stop. So already that felt faster. And look at this. Oh my gosh. Where the heck did that function go? It has dropped so far down. I actually can't find it in the list anymore. Did I miss it? Is it still up here and I just missed it? Init memory, find node containing point, classify point. Game, sort vertices. No. Octave. My octave noise is taking up more time than some of the stuff. Although I don't know how to go any faster. Ah, ya fool, Mr. Purnell. Ya fool. For those who don't know, Jacob Purnell is a fantastic musician. You guys should check out his channel at some point. Watch him make some music for Star Mazer. I think he did a remix song recently, although he can correct me if that's correct or not. Okay, so this is better. This is faster, right? Without any profiler attached, right? 1/1000. That's about it. That's a much better world generation time than some of the previous stuff. Did I terminate too fast? Terminate what? Thurena. You'll have to be a little more specific because of the lag, unfortunately. But I don't think I terminated Very Sleepy too quickly. I'll do another run just to make sure. It is kind of crazy that it disappeared so quickly, but I also somewhat understand it in the way that the locality is going to have us find things on the end before things from the beginning. Okay, here's Very Sleepy. I'm very sleepy. I'm not actually very sleepy. Alright, so ready, set, profile, go. Test world start. Worlds generated, stop. Right? I definitely didn't overshoot it or undershoot it this time. It's still just straight up gone. I'm very happy with this. Yeah. Looks much better. I like this already. The only thing left is this find in pointer array, and I don't really know how I would slow that, or how I would speed that up much further. So it's funny, we spent all this time going through and checking, okay, is this a possibility, is this a possibility? Only to find that a pair of little changes made the world of difference. We went from a function that was taking upwards of 2.5 seconds to, I don't know, I can't even find it in here anymore. I can't tell you how long it took. It's less than a second. It's like sub-tenth or hundredth of a second, which is fantastic. Alright, so with this fixed, I have some time for questions, and I've been seeing a lot of people asking, and a lot of new timers who have been joining, which is fantastic. A lot of people asking what this game is about and what I'm doing. So you're not able to see the visibility system because I broke the visibility system when I changed the terrain system. But the idea is that you will be able to, whoops, break the game very easily. That's an interesting... One sec. I apparently forgot to put a null check in here. If it's not equal to a null pointer... Sorry, if it's equal to a null pointer or contains water. Don't mind the crashes. So I can't actually check easily how many people are in chat right now. Let's see here. Twitch, tell me. Holy heck, we're at 98. About to hit 100 for, I think, the second or third time, which is fantastic. But for all the new people here who have never seen this game, it is a survival RTS, or simulation game. I'm not sure if RTS or simulation is more accurate, but, oh man, what is going wrong here? If the footprint cell, I need to figure something out here. Something's crashing. But, I'll get to that in a second. The idea is that you will have a bunch of little settlers, and they're wandering around doing their thing, and the world is going to be trying to destroy them in one way or another. And these villagers should be pretty self-sufficient on their own. The problem is resources are going to be really, really limited. So when you start to run out of food, you need to go scavenge for food from nearby ruins, because this is going to be somewhat post-apocalyptic in nature. I know it doesn't look it right now, but terrain rewrites tend to make life a little more difficult. So the idea is two things here. One is you're guiding all these little people, trying to help them with their daily lives, but more specifically, you're trying to help them survive on a bigger scale. I want this game to contain next to zero micromanagement. The big thing I want to happen here is that as you play the game, you are helping them break through certain barriers. For example, there's going to be a visibility system in place that says you can only see everything in this circle. Once a villager walks out of that circle, unless you have a remote camera set up somewhere else, you won't be able to see that person's movements. So when you send someone off on a death-defying mission, the fact that they may not come back is somewhat frightening. That should create some tension on its own. If somebody doesn't come back, you as the player have this choice of, crap, do I send more people out after them? Or do I send maybe a more supplied team? Or maybe do I just leave them to die and not worry about the fact that they are just kind of out on their own? So that's one part of it, is a visibility system that is no longer implemented. It was in at one point. If you look at some of the earlier streams, you will actually see, and my YouTube channel has a lot of my earlier streams. Granted, they're long. Like this one. I just hit the 3-hour mark today on something that should not have taken me this long, honestly. So, and the other thing is, the world is also trying to destroy you. It's not like passively sitting there going, oh, I hope you starve, like Banished might. It's actually got monsters and mutants and fields of areas that are completely unsafe, or fields of areas that will do crazy things like manipulate time, transform all this person's food into, like, oil or something. Yeah, Heka makes a good point. Some of these people are still moving because, I don't know, they're about to starve. Some of them are even dying as we speak. His health's about to run out. Crunch. Down he goes. There's one person here sleeping, who's the only person left. Oh wait, no, there's another guy hiding over here, who's climbing up and down a ledge. Come here, you. But without food, they aren't going to last long. They are stupid right now. Eventually, I hope to have an AI system in place that's pretty in-depth. And I've started in on that, but I'm taking a break from it right now with all this optimization stuff, just because the fact that the game was starting up in 3 seconds was kind of a pain. Minecraft Frame Gaming asks, when you were starting when you first started working on the game, were you streaming it, or was that in your own time? If you were streaming it when you started, can you have a date so I can go check it out? I first started work on this in November of last year, and I was not streaming initially. The idea to stream came kind of a little bit later. What's my YouTube channel called? It should be Captain Waffles, CPTN Waffles. There should be a link in the stream description if you want to go check that out or follow it so you can see when I put new videos up. The videos in most cases are just the streams one for one. I don't really go so far as to like clean them up much. I don't have that kind of time, unfortunately. Between this game development and working on my car and keeping that sucker running and looking for a job and all this other crazy stuff, I kind of quickly find myself without time. So yeah, that is how it goes. Yep, and now they're all dead. So yeah, that's kind of the point of the game. That's the big rationale behind a lot of this. I'm doing a lot of work to make this playable first, right? I want to get something that's fun, interesting, and in place, and then what I want to do after that is start getting playtesters in on it. After I've figured out, yes, this is fun and I should continue, or no, this is boring, I should come up with a new idea, or find a way to revitalize this idea. Because I think this idea's got some really good draw. Catch you later, Jacob. Nice having you on the channel. Always got to throw a shout out to him because he does some fantastic audio work. A fair number of my previous games have used his music and sound effects, and I cannot recommend him highly enough. Alright, so let's close this sucker out and actually commit these changes, because these are some important changes. Also, I keep nuking this initialize function, and I need to remember to not just nuke it, but nuke it in a version of the code that I'm going to commit, like this. Right? That shouldn't break anything. Watch everything break. Cool. We're gonna nuke that file too. Don't need that. Cool. So, fixes what? Fixes what? It fixes, or not fixes, it optimizes the time spent creating terrain, the smart usage of info regarding vertices? Newly created vertices. Cool. Trying to figure out this name. Ecognizer. Ecognizer? I think that's right. Don't have a job. No, I do not. What do I have a degree in? I have a degree in computer science and game design. I was lucky enough to do a couple... I had an interview yesterday, which is why I wasn't streaming, unfortunately. I was kind of burnt out after that. I do have a couple offers in, so I'm kind of gauging that and talking to the various companies who have made offers at this point. So I will have a job again soon. I've only been out of a job for a couple weeks, so I'm not too terribly worried. How it goes. It's actually a lot of fun. I have fun interviewing. I'm kind of sad I don't get to interview more, because there are some great opportunities in the offers I've been handed, so I don't want to pass those up. But yeah, I'll let you guys know like when and where and what happens with that, because it's an exciting thing. I get asked some really cool questions in interviews. Yesterday there wasn't anything too terribly exciting, but heck, I'll throw one into chat. I'll throw one of my interview questions into chat. Given an array of integers, and I'll just kind of say it while I type it. Given an array of integers, write a function whose output is an array of matching size, whose elements are the product of all elements in the input array, except the element at the position in the output array. And I'll put in some examples here. So example would be your input is 1, 2, and 3, with your output being crap. I actually have to do the math for this one because I don't have this. It would be 6, 3, and 2. Let's format that correctly. So something like that. Like, that was a really cool one, because there's a really fast way to do that that is really counterintuitive. And it's something that this one took me a little bit more thinking. I did eventually come up with a good enough answer, and then was told the fastest answer with a couple hints. It was kind of like, well, what if you try division? And you kind of look at the thing and you're like, but you're finding the product. Why would you need division? There's a fast way to do it. I'll let you guys fight with that yourself. That's a fun one, though. So, Ecognizer, I'm not actually an artist in any way, shape, or form. My degree is purely computer science. So I am specifically a game programmer. I don't have any art skills whatsoever. My ability to create, like, 3D art starts and ends with, like, the terrain is procedurally generated, and these trees, I made the trees, hooray! Like, that's it. That's as far as my art kind of goes. It's not that great. So I'd be careful with getting certain art degrees. Game design art degrees are very specific, and if you find yourself out of a job, it can be a little difficult to find a new one unless your portfolio is on par with, like Samwise's or something. Thorena has got it. Bam. Fastest solution right there. Compute the product of all once. Divide through for each position. Very, very nice. Yeah, that's the perfect way to do that. That is the fastest way possible. And it took me a little while. My first thought was like binary trees, I guess, where you split the array downwards and you say, okay, if it's on this side of the array, then you pre-multiply all these numbers. No. Thorena, if you like, what is it? Signition was the name of one startup that was interested in finding me. Unfortunately, I'm going to keep the name of the other one to myself because I have an offer from them. Googling it's one thing, but it's an interesting thing to fully understand. So, Ecognizer, that Jacob Purnell guy who came and went, I don't think he's in channel anymore, but he is definitely a guy to network with if you can, because he is a great he's a game composer, specifically, but he also does sound effects and other cool things. And why is this... Okay. Why did that crash before? That blows my mind. Also, I know these don't work. I should probably fix those eventually. In fact, why don't we make eventually right now, if I can? Just in case. Get cell system. Get cell. Oh, and then it's just get elevation. Elevation. There we go. I'd be amazed if the rest of this just kind of worked. I would actually kind of laugh a little bit. When's the game coming out? Not for a long time. Not till it's done, specifically. Hey, okay, there we go. Farms work. Farms actually look pretty darn nice. Let's put down some, Oh, look at that, too. Okay, no, there's a little bit of work that needs to be... No. That looks pretty darn good. I'm looking for, like, crazy edge cases. Or anything where it would generate... Oh, right there. That looks like a bad case. So it's not perfect, but we've got some pretty good edge cases in here taken care of. Ah! And why are you crashing? What is going on here? if the corner cell is null. So, I don't understand why these are coming in as null. That's the weird part. If it's a null pointer, or... Oh, you know what? No, I don't know what, actually. Valid is false. Yes. Okay. Couple little fixes need to go in. Sometimes I write code without null checks. Let's try it again, just in case. So there's a farm, and there's a farm. Let's put the couple farms over here with the settlement here. And we'll put another little storage shed over here, just so people can cut trees and be happy. And off they go. This is kind of cool. So this is kind of as far as the simulation currently exists, right? It's not huge, it's not great, but it's not the end of the world, too. It's doing a pretty darn good job. And the only worry I have is that getting the AI in place is going to be a huge task. Granted, I've already started in on some of it, but... Anarchist. Do I have a new job yet? Not yet. Got a couple job offers. Working on actually getting a new job. It's not the end of the world. It's just taking its time. I also want to make sure that I go with a job that not only supports my lifestyle, which currently includes a mortgage payment, but also allows me enough time that I can continue to stream. So that would be nice. If I join in some startup that's going to be crunch time 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, obviously, not only is that not humanly possible and I would die, but that also wouldn't leave me time to spend time with you guys and get this stuff working. So, obviously I'm metering out my my possibilities, kind of filtering out the ones that are crazy and not in my field or not terribly interesting to me. Why did I lose my other job? I was laid off. Simple as that. Given 2 months of severance, and then they paid out my vacation time and all that good stuff. I was laid off because the company wasn't getting sold and wasn't making a ton of money in the first place. How it goes. Honestly, I should have seen the signs. So, it's kind of what I get for being completely naive and just sitting there and fooling about programming without looking at the state of the company. Am I using Visual Studio Community? No. So I signed up for BizSpark, which is Microsoft's, it's their independent developer program that allows folks like me to get Visual Studio Pro, which is really cool. So I'm using Pro now. Did this guy just die? No, he's sleeping. Okay, good. I was like, I don't see the Z's. Oh god, what's happened? Cool. This seems to be working out. I should probably put some more farms down so they don't all starve. That would be nice. Because farms right now take a long time to actually complete. Getting visual through your school is also a really cool way to do it. You got to make sure, though, that you get the most up-to-date version. And then it's kind of difficult once you leave school. Like, I did the same thing, too. I think it's DreamSpark is their other version. Their version for students. And so it's really nice. If you can, and you're in a university that has the DreamSpark program, all you have to do is sign up. And usually your university or high school or such will be happy to give you a copy. The Thessalonian, what am I using for rendering? I am using the C4 engine, which is an OpenGL based system. It's a very, very nice engine. Proprietary, so it will cost you some money if you want to use it, but I think it is well worth the amount of money I put into it so far. Could I make a game like this in Visual Studio Express? Yeah, for the longest time I was actually working with Express. And I had a lot of people telling me to switch to the Community Edition. And I didn't see a need to, because for me, Community is Oh, for me, Community didn't have features that I specifically needed. I guess I should say. Are you dead? No, you're not dead. Okay, good. So yeah, this is what is in the game so far. We'll swap it around and get it a little better later. For example, this stupid cliff here is something that causes me so much pain every time I load this up. I want to fix that. I really, really do. I'm actually going to put these little null check fixes in, just so I don't forget that they exist. And extra function removal. Cool. I actually haven't heard about the GitHub Student Pack. That would be really cool. I will have to check that out at some point. Obviously, I'm not a student anymore, so that kind of stuff won't work for me. But for those of you who are students, take advantage of all the resources available. Look at Open Game Art. Look at, DreamSpark. Look at, the GitHub Student Pack. There are a lot of resources that, as a student, you can make really good use of and make some really cool stuff with. Somebody asked earlier why I was using Monstercat, because Monstercat, of all things, it doesn't have a lot of lyrics, so it's not terribly distracting. And it's a free usage license if you have their bot join your channel. I actually don't know how to kick the bot out of my channel. I'll have to figure that one out at some point. But it's nice music that isn't going to get my VOD muted, and it's not going to get my YouTube channel dumped with copyright notices, which I've been fighting a lot with recently. So it's a lot better for me. It works out. Although all the game soundtracks have been beautiful and so much fun to program with. I've been enjoying those quite a bit as well. So, let's see here. Is there anything else I really want to dive into before I call it a day? Because honestly, with so many folks joining me right now, it's really a good factor that I kind of want to stick around longer now. To have about 100 people is not rare, but it's not common for me either. And so I'm glad all of you were able to join me. And I'll give the quick spiel that for those of you who are just joining or have been here a while and are wondering what the heck I'm up to, I am currently working on a survival RTS where think Banished and Stalker kind of mashed together, where the citizens are a little less stupid and a little more able to fend for themselves, but you have to guide them on their journey to making deals with other settlements. You have to send them out on missions, and you have to essentially guide the system to make sure that they don't starve simply because they run out of resources or because something is attacking. So that's kind of the concept here. And if this is something you're interested in, or if you just like watching me code or hearing me talk, the follow button's right below, and I am very happy to have everybody, hit that button, follow me, see each time I come online. Today you got to watch me optimize something, which, as it turns out, all I had to do was make a couple little tweaks, and it was optimized and clean. I feel like a bit of an idiot because I spent 3 hours. I'm now at the 3.5 hour mark. Took me a long time to get that done. Oops. But that's how we do it. We learn. And hopefully for those of you who are like beginning in programming or wondering how to get into game design, while this isn't the greatest gateway, it's still a good way to learn some of the tips and tricks that you'll only find in a lot of either industry professionals or in game designers, kind of game programmers specifically. So thanks again, guys, for joining me. I'm going to poke around at the system, but I don't think there's anything else I can do in fairly short order, because I do have to take off in about 20-30 minutes. And without anything short to dive in on, I'm afraid I don't want to start something and then just like cut it off and say like, sorry guys, we'll finish it next time, because I tend to finish things off stream. It's how it goes. I'm actually amazed. Usually Wilkie is on at some point today, and I'm kind of sad to see that he isn't. I like to watch his work when I'm, like, doing my thing or eating lunch or whatever. Although without him on, I don't know, maybe I'll watch something else. My talking helps people sleep. I'm not sure if that's a good sign for my future career in teaching. I had a calc professor who very literally, his talking put me to sleep. I failed that class because I could not stay awake and understand the calc concepts because he kept the room dark. He used one of those old school, like, film projectors, and his voice was so monotonous that it just put me to sleep every time. Ecognizer, thanks for joining me. Glad to have you guys along, as I keep saying. It's nice to have an audience, if only because you guys help me out in the motivation and sometimes even the coding. You know, big shout out to those folks who are helping me out today, Chakma and Thorena. Very nice to have you folks along, helping me along the way. Some very good ideas that I might still get to eventually, although for now I think I'm done with my optimizing of this system. It boots up in about a second. That's not bad. I do not mind that at all. In fact, if we look at... let's see here. Can I unload the world and reload it? Chunk. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. That's a nice fast world generation. Or quicker, anyway. So, I'm definitely happy with what we've done today. Sushi Katana, glad you could join us. Glad you're enjoying yourself. If you guys have any comments on ways I could do this better, please let me know. Or if you're hunting for anything specific, if you want to see me work on AI, if you want to see me work on something, I can definitely put out bulletins when I'll be working on very specific parts of the project. Right now, the focus is on getting the gameplay in place, so it's a lot of terrain work, a lot of AI work, and a lot of gameplay features, like putting these farms in was a pretty big feature back in the day. I say that because I did that back in like December, maybe January, so it's been a while. But it's nice to have some of these gameplay features in place so that the people act and react like kind of standard villagers instead of being robots that do their thing. What's the game about? I've kind of been going over the game a lot recently, so I'm going to stave off that one. There's a short description in the stream summary. Basically, RTS survival. Single player, obviously, because multiplayer would just be crazy. I should quickly add a wolf that kills them. So combat is on the list of things that has to come soon. I can't do combat in now 10 minutes. That's just a little bit much. But in the future, combat is definitely on the list. I've also got some of the art already and things like that. So I don't have to worry too much about it. And I've even got, let's see, can I pull up the art? Micro character bases. Whoops. Where are you? I'll pull up the art real quick that I've been using. I've been using OpenGameArt is a great site for open source game art because not only are their licenses all commercial compatible, but you can see the licenses on the side that you have access to, and then they have some really cool stuff like, oh, here's some, you know, quick and easy things where you can see, here's what this animation looks like, and here's a summary of it. And the descriptions tend to be pretty good of like, oh, okay, comes with these animations. Great. Yeah, currently the people walk through the walls of the building. I'm not actually sure if I want to change that too much. I might have them move to like an entrance on the front or back just to keep them from wandering through the walls. But the pathfinding's pretty simple right now. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Pathfinding's pretty freaking simple, and so I don't really want to make it too much more complex. Because there are going to be, hopefully, a lot of people wandering around. Alright, I'm running short on time. If you guys have any last questions before I sign off, please feel free, ask away. I'm going to be kind of poking at my to-do list a little bit more, as well as, ooh, NVIDIA wants to talk to me. That could be an interesting job offer. That could be a really interesting offer. Depending on whether I go work for Grid or not, I guess would be what they'd be interested in me for. Let's see the game in action. I mean, this is the game in action. This is as much action as there currently is. The only other things I'm not really showing off a ton right now are my, whoops, are the power, power line system that isn't all that great. It's just a basic, like, very simple setup, and then the mission system is here where you say, oh, I want you, or you can give a name, or you can say anybody. You say move to a location way the heck out here. That's actually way too far. He, I don't think, would survive such a trip. But let's say make him walk to 2-2, and then we can tell him to scout the area afterwards. And scout, yeah, scout in a depth of 2, sure. And then off he would go. Where is he? One guy is wandering off into the middle of nowhere. I'm going to assume, yeah, here he goes. Now, granted, his pathfinding, woo, uh-oh. Why are you a problem? What broke? Why code this in C++? What makes C++ the best to code this in? The reason I chose C++ over Unity or anything else is that at the time when I started the project, Unity's user interface system sucked. Like, it really sucked. And so I'm not going to go and build a game that has a high UI requirement when the UI for an engine sucks. C4 had the UI in place, and it's got a lot of great framework that I thought I could build off of very quickly and easily. So I chose that engine, and because C4 uses C++, unless I want to write interop language code, and then write some code in C# and some in C++, which would be a mess, it's easier just to code the whole thing in C++. It's not really a performance thing or anything else, it's just what the language happens to be scribbled in. Unity? Nah, I've contemplated it. I've liked Unity. I like a lot of the stuff it does. I also like having source access to the engine or whatever I'm working on. Unity's got a lot of upsides, but the one major downside is that I really, really like to have source access. And that's something that doesn't happen with Unity. And some of the Unity stuff is also messy. I don't like how their system, a game object, can either be using 2D or 3D objects, and that they have two completely separate physics engines plugged in, and that if you're using one system, the other is just disabled, and you have a bunch of variables taking up space but never being used. There's kind of a bunch of little complaints I have about Unity, but they're not big. Like, that's the one thing, is I keep looking at this game and going, could I do this faster in Unity? Would this be easier in Unity? Unity's procedural generation code is still not exactly up to scratch, so that's the other reason I didn't go Unity. I only make 2D games? No, I'm making a 3D game right now. One sec. Curiosity has me on why... okay, there's a broken cell in the gather terrain. I need to, if depth left or cell is a null pointer, return. There we go. I have some 2D games on my portfolio website, which is also, I think, linked in the stream description. If you end up playing any of those, they are mostly HTML5 or Unity based. In the past, I made a lot of 2D games, but I've kind of matured as a programmer and as a mathematician. I sat down, I took the time to read and do the work to figure out how to kind of figure out how 3D matrices and transforms work, and 4D matrices and 4D transforms and all that crazy stuff. Hypercubes are fun, by the way. If you ever feel like your math is not hard enough, look up Perlin or simplex noise, and how it works across a hypercube. That's some very mind-bending math right there. But yeah, a lot of my old work you'll find is in 2D. This is not. This is pure 3D work, which is really cool. It's a lot of fun for me. Yeah, that's Nemo, you really got the point in. Procedural in Unity for me didn't really they really didn't work well when I tried it earlier. I hit a point actually with this engine where I was having a memory management crash and I couldn't figure out where it was, and the engine author wasn't helping a ton. And so I just tried it in Unity, and Unity really had some issues that I need to kind of deal with. Tenet, I would make the trees fade out or fall through the ground, but for now, I'm not working on graphical things. I'm really trying to get the gameplay in place, and then I'll make things prettier afterwards. I only do pretty things when I've got something big on my plate and I'm avoiding it. Like right now, I'm avoiding all that AI work by doing all these optimizations, and I wanted to, like, if you look at the wireframe for the world, it's very, very static. I actually want to make the water ripple and wave, and that would be a lot of fun, and that'd be something interesting to work on. Maybe I'll do that next stream, because I still feel like putting off the AI a little longer. So I tend to do pretty things only when I'm procrastinating, mostly. Have I tried CryEngine? No. No, I have not. I have not had the time to try CryEngine. I tried the old Unreal engines. I used to work with porting games, and so I spent a lot of time in Unreal 3 and Unreal 2. I think Duke Nukem Forever was Unreal 2, which was a nightmare. Pretty sure it was Unreal 2. Duke Nukem Forever. What engine were you on? I know it was the Unreal Engine, I just don't know what version. And I know they swapped it out repeatedly, which is frightening. Unreal Engine. Yeah, they don't say what version. I could have sworn it was 2. I really could have sworn it was 2. Not sure. But yeah, that was a nightmare code base to work on. If you ever want to hear nightmare stories, I'm happy to tell those on a later time and day. But yeah, there's a lot of things that come from old Unreal Engine things that really made that game terrifying when you look at the code. Da-dum-dum. Unity, I think, if we were to, or if I specifically, and this is my opinion, this is not fact, if I were to work with Unity, I think Unity is fantastic for a few things. It is great for games that aren't procedural. So any game where that editor can be used is fantastic. It's just fan-fucking-tastic. It's great. Any game that is a quick prototype that you need to slap together in 48 hours or less, it's great. It has a bunch of uses, and I absolutely love Unity for those uses. The moment you want to make a game larger than like Minesweeper or something like Stealth Bastard, which was made in GameMaker actually, the moment you want to make something beyond your simple stuff, it takes a lot of work to fight with Unity and get it into the form you need it to be before it will work. And that's the part I don't like. So yeah. Alright guys, well, I gotta run in a couple minutes. Thank you again, everybody, for joining me. If you're a first timer here, please, if you like what I'm doing, hit the follow button. I'm definitely going to be back online probably on, I guess I say on Wednesday. I keep losing track of what day it is. I'm going to be online tomorrow if I can help it to do some more work on this game. I don't know what I'll work on quite yet, but I'll figure something out. I always do. What engine is Hearthstone? Hearthstone is Blizzard's in-house thing. I assume they have a custom engine for something like Hearthstone. I can't imagine them using the standard other code for Hearthstone. Alright guys, anyway. Oh, it uses Unity. Really? That's actually kind of cool. Hearthstone is an interesting setup. I don't know. It's fun to see what people are able to make with Unity. Once again, Hearthstone fits into that, like, somewhat simple idea, right? Card games have a very set format. So doing something like that in Unity, easy enough. Because the format and structure of a card game is easy enough that you can get away with stuff like that. I am somewhat surprised it's in Unity, but I shouldn't be surprised either because, honestly, Unity is a powerful tool. And like any tool, it has its uses. So I don't find it too far-fetched that it's in Unity. Even the desktop version, I wouldn't be surprised if it were in Unity. Granted, I know a lot of companies like to make their own proprietary stuff, so oh, only the mobile version's in Unity. Interesting. Interesting. Well, I know that also Blizzard likes to have their own patching file system, so that kind of makes some sense too. Alright, is there anything else I want to do before I sign off? Not really. Just say thanks again, guys, for joining me. It's been great having you all along. Thanks to, oh gosh, I think I've missed the person's name. Somebody hosted me earlier, and I wanted to say thank you to them, although now chat's gone on long enough that I've actually lost that person's name. Let's see if I can look it up real quick. Nemo Persona. Thank you very much for hosting me. It's been great. I know I had Binray host me for a while at one point. And it's always nice to have people hosting the channel so that new viewers can kind of see what different game design topics look like. I know at some point I should probably host my channel and hand it off to someone else, but haven't found somebody yet. And it's not like Heart Lexicon needs all my viewers at the same time, so she would be the only person I might be tempted to host. Anyway, thanks again, guys, for joining me. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully I will see most, if not all of you, on the next stream. Take care. Have a good day.